Secret of the Mimic is here, and with that comes the question. Is the game good? Is it bad? Well, after getting 100% over across 20 hours of playing, I think this is honestly one of the best FNaF games ever. I know I say that a lot, and over time my thoughts changed, so I decided to give it about a month after release for it to sit in my head and decide my final thoughts on it. I genuinely had so much fun with this game. Steel did such a great job on it like I expected. They definitely learned from Security Breach and Ruin, with this game kind of being a mix of both. The game actually scared me at some points, which even though I've been playing these games for almost a decade, they still find some way to startle me. The story is probably the most cohesive FNaF has ever been, and is incredible and even emotional sometimes. Today I'll be going over my thoughts on everything: the characters, the costume manor itself, the gameplay, and the story. I'll also go over my thoughts from before the release, such as the trailers, PAX West, and such. So let's start from the beginning with the teaser trailer, which honestly I wasn't a big of a fan of at first, mainly because not much was shown, just the puppet's music box, a clown, and the date 1979. Later during Freddy's 10th anniversary celebration at PAX West, a demo of the game was shown, and with that, the reveal of that clown, which is now known as Jackie. I love this design a lot, and I'll comment more on her later, but this definitely got me hyped for the game. A few months later, in December, Help Wanted 2 got a brand new update, which most people, including myself, thought was DLC. But it wasn't, and DLC for that game has yet to release, unfortunately. The update was pretty much an advertisement for Secret of the Mimic, with us needing to collect these puzzle pieces in order to reveal Jackie's box, the front of a building, which we end up seeing in the parachute ending, and a mexes being taken away in a van. Jackie and the suited up Mimic were also available in the gallery. Pretty cool little update, but was kind of lackluster for those who were expecting something big. In February, during a PlayStation State of Play, the first trailer for the game was revealed, and it was insane. It showed so much: new looks at Jackie, new animatronics entirely, like Dolly, Big Top, and the mascot costumes, gameplay, and some shots of Mario's costume manor. If I wasn't excited before, this definitely would have done it, because this is a great first look at the game. Let's just hope Steel continues to market this game well. Well, after a couple months of silence, Steel began posting these MCM archive tapes on their channel. These included various inventions of Edwin Murray's, such as the Cleanovac and Mycelium Men. These were cool little tapes that seemed to show us the abilities of the Mimic, such as mimicking voices, shape-shifting, and remembering everything.
I know what you want better than you do. I am always watching and learning.
And after people asked for more gameplay, Steel delivered with 3 secret videos that showed us some chase scenes that were absolutely mind-blowing. Judging by the marketing material we did get, Steel were definitely cooking up something good here, and I was unbelievably hyped at this point, so I pre-ordered the game and waited for the release. For this segment on the video, I'll be giving my thoughts on the various areas and the animatronics that we encounter in them. So let's get started with the costume manor itself. I'll just get it out of the way immediately. This place is incredible. The whole building is so well designed from both a realistic standpoint, such as parts, boxes, and costumes, obviously, covering every inch of this place, which Steel apparently took inspiration from Jim Henson's Creature Shop, where there's paths made around all the props, which is cool and makes this feel like a real place. The manor is also great from a gameplay standpoint, as you can backtrack to most areas that you've explored, and unlocking more permissions allows for more exploration to find collectibles, secrets, and access previously visited locations. A similar thing was done with Security Breach, but that had way more restrictions of where you could go. We also need to talk about what the manor is named after, the costumes, which are littered all over the building. There's going to be at least 200 of these things. There are some duplicates of each costume, which makes perfect sense, as you'll need multiple for each company that wants to purchase them, and some that are rare to find, such as Sharpay and the elephant being much more common that you'll see usually throughout your whole game, and the lion and lemur being less seen. There being lots of costumes is also good for gameplay as well, so the Mimic isn't just wearing the same 3 costumes for the whole game. Instead, they are more varied and adds to the horror factor of not knowing which costume he'll be hiding in. There have been times when I'm standing right next to an empty costume and suddenly the Mimic goes inside of it and scares the shit out of me. Speaking of costumes, Jackie is up next, and despite being the icon of the game, she only appears for around 5 minutes or so at the beginning of the game. Even though I would have liked to see her more, the game is called Secret of the Mimic, not Secret of the Jackie after all. And if you're going to complain about her being marketed the most, it's likely because she is the best fit and looks the most like a traditional FNaF character, and obviously they're not going to spoil the brand new Mimic design in the marketing material. Anyway, back to Jackie herself. I really like this design. As I said before, she closely resembles a classic FNaF character like Circus Baby or Enid, with the white faces and being a clown and all. They might be twins, who knows. I could also see a kid liking Jackie, which is kind of the whole point of most of FNAF's characters. They are mascots for children after all. And that is until the Mimic uses her suit to hunt us down in a really cool chase scene where, in the beginning, the Mimic is very clumsy and clearly not used to the long arms of Jackie, but once we fall deeper, we can see how creepy Jackie can be. Her normal eyes are replaced with the Mimic's glowing orange ones, which coupled with how unhinged she looks, makes for some really creepy shots. One thing I don't see many people talking about with the Mimic is how the Mimic takes a character's voice and changes it up a bit. I'll use Jackie as an example here. Her voice is very cute and girly sounding, but once Mimic takes over, it's very robotic and deeper, like if you lowered the pitch of your voice in an editing software. I'll come back to this later with another character, but I really love this detail since it shows the Mimic actually mimicking another character's voice, and sounding kinda similar but also slightly off. Even though she only shows up for a short amount of time, Jackie's chase is very cool and sometimes nerve-wracking on her first playthrough with her super long arms extending beside you. Eventually we destroy her, but this look doesn't stay for very long unfortunately. Maybe you could have seen her corpse left in the office after the Mimic left. Soon after Jackie we meet Big Top, the giant ticket machine with long arms and is clearly an early version of Music Man. While I do like the old-timey music design for this guy, his section wasn't necessarily my favorite. The part with avoiding the mannequins kinda gets repetitive since it needs to be done 3 times, but at least the carnival games are fun. Big Top's chase sequence was pretty cool with him smashing through the building and destroying everything around him. One question I do have is how is the Mimic even piloting this thing? Is he controlling Big Top like a giant mech suit? Anyway, Big Top's a cool character, but his section wasn't really my favorite. Before we go into the next character, let's talk about the workshop and the theater. In the workshop we build the Captain Springlock suit, which is honestly one of my favorite parts of the game. It's pretty fun searching for all the parts, although one criticism I do have is the location of the parts could have been randomized for each playthrough, as they are always in the same spot for every time you play the game. My favorite costumes in this area have got to be the Mycelium Men, the Jester, and the Unfinished suits. These kind of freak me out, especially the face of the mushroom, and just the Jester overall. You're going to need to be very stealthy here to avoid moving the hanging chains, and also since you can't run while holding the animatronic parts. I'm a big fan of this section, and it kind of scares me sometimes when I'm not focused. The atmosphere is great, and the lifeless costumes definitely help with that. Seeing Roxy and Foxy in the theater was also cool, but I did get confused with the whole stage section since I didn't know if I was supposed to be shooting the puppets, which apparently you don't. But after a few attempts, I eventually progressed into the doll hospital. The doll hospital is easily one of, if not my favorite section in this whole game. Right when we enter, we are introduced to Nurse Dolly, who runs the place, and is already one of my favorite characters in this game. She's voiced by Heather Masters, who also voices Glamrock Chica, Vanessa, and Circus Baby, and her performances are always great. Dolly's design is also really cool. This is our first time seeing a nurse animatronic and a hospital in general in a FNAF game, so it feels fresh and brand new. Dolly's design kind of borders the line of being friendly, but also really goddamn scary once the Mimic takes over.
What the fuck? Oh my god,
Oh.
piss off! No.
She's usually on a track and can still attack us then, but soon after we meet her, the Mimic rips her off the tracks and crawls inside. We can even see his feet peeking out near the bottom. And like I said before, Dolly's voice is now more Mimic sounding, I guess you can say. I forgot to mention this before, but the Mimic is super fast in this game, and that is noticeable here since if Nurse Dolly sees you, she Usain bolts towards you at full speed. The only way I've found to avoid her is crawling inside of a vent. The doll hospital is also full of tight turns and corners, so if she finds you, good luck escaping. I'm a big fan of the doll hospital too. Its tiled floors in green and blue color palette remind me a lot of this location. We dump Dolly into the pit of molten metal after collecting enough trash, but that doesn't put her down since as soon after, we see her crawling out of the vat of molten metal. While her suit is clearly all destroyed, the Mimic inside is completely unfazed by this. This is one of the coolest scenes in the whole game. It's so awesome. We then get a stealth area with Molten Dolly and get into an elevator just in time. Unfortunately, she comes back and jumps onto the roof of the elevator and we must repair it. We then see the Mimic noticing he's about to get crushed by the elevator and he climbs out of the Dolly suit and escapes, which is yet another incredible scene. This whole section was just amazing, and not to mention the music here. This song is called Back to the Iron Lung and is one of the best songs I've ever heard in a FNAF game. The whole soundtrack in this game is just amazing. Just like I said with Dolly, who would have thought the Mimic would get even faster inside of the Party Time Chica costume? This party time Chica costume is just awesome to see as well, since it's from Chica's Party World, which we haven't heard of since this location 8 years ago. I also just love how this costume looks. She's so derpy looking, and the mimic inside looks like he's having fun with the roller skates on. The music in the warehouse is also beautiful too. It's very 70s themed, which is obvious since this game takes place in the 70s, but the music's just great. We then move on to the basement, which has got to be the scariest area in the whole game. It's pretty much pitch black except for a few lights you must run to, or else you'll be attacked by the White Tiger, who seems to be the spirit of David Murray and takes the form of his White Tiger plush, now as a full suit. And this guy aura farms so much, but it's so creepy as well. This design is low-key horrifically beautiful, I guess you can say, that's how I describe it. Like, he's kind of ugly, but he's also scary and really cool at the same time, and the laughter and giggles are terrifying. I'm a big fan of how unnatural he is. He teleports and creepily stares at you from the darkness with his big bug eyes. Your lack of light adds to the atmosphere, since your start off and night light only allows you to see around 5 feet in front of you. You go from big wide open spaces to tight corridors, and I'm a big fan of the Tiger's mechanic here, with him not being like the others and only attacking from the dark or if you get too close to him. Definitely one of my favorite segments. It reminds me a lot of older FNaF, since the Tiger is pretty much a ghost. Now we go to the main attraction himself, the Mimic. Now with this brand new design. This is the original design that Edwin Murray made for the Mimic, until later he replaced all of his parts and becomes the one we see in Ruin, which honestly I think this design is on par with the Ruin one. I love both of them. They just have this look to them that kind of creeps me out a bit, and they have this uncanny look as well. More so the Secret of the Mimic version. I think it's mostly because like the heat coil eyes and the human-like teeth just creep me out, man. I don't like it. This Mimic is also very skinny and has these bright orange heat coils for eyes, which look very cool, especially in the back of our truck in the bad ending. And the reveal of him mimicking Fiona in the tape was insane. He also feels like the Terminator. This guy does not go down. He gets beat up by Edwin, he comes back. He gets into a car crash, he comes back. He gets dunked into molten metal twice, he comes back. Good luck to anyone trying to fight this guy, because I assure you, he will come out on top. I'm a big fan of this guy's looks and character. I love that he is the only enemy throughout the whole game besides the Tiger and Sleepy Moon. I'm excited to see what they do with him next. Hopefully in some type of DLC we get to see more of him outside of the costume. I also need to mention the little David Mimic from the secret ending. This guy's adorable, I love him. The human characters in this game are also some of the best FNaF has ever had. Our main character Arnold feels like a real human being and has real human reactions to what is happening around him. He complains to dispatch after the big top chase and breathes heavily in a tense situation. He also reminds me a lot of Ethan Winters from Resident Evil, maybe because they're both faceless protagonists. Edwin is an incredible character that we learn a surprising amount of info on for being a FNaF character, which we don't get much info on them. We learn about his whole life pretty much, which is really sad to see. He took over his father's business, made some cool inventions, married Fiona, had a child, but from there it goes downhill. Fazbear Entertainment contracts him to make some stuff, and constantly changes things, and his employee starts stealing his property. Fiona gets killed at Fall Fest in a fire, he builds M1 to take care of David, and then David dies. We see Edwin's whole life spiral down, which is so sad to see, and you actually feel bad for him. Learning that Fiona designed Chica was an insane surprise, and I was not expecting that. And that leads us into the story. The story of Secret of the Mimic is actually pretty understandable. I can see a newcomer to the franchise understanding the story of this game without needing any outside knowledge from previous games and books. In fact, this game actually proves the books aren't canon. Well, they're still important, but they're not in the same timeline. I came into this game expecting a similar story to Tales from the Pizzaplex, but this game took that idea and improved on it greatly. This is genuinely one of the best stories I've ever seen in a FNaF game. It kept me engaged, interested, and even made me emotional at some points, such as the tapes in the main house and the secret ending. Edwin, Fiona, and David's story is very tragic, and it shows how evil Fazbear Entertainment really is. They pretty much destroyed Edwin's life and took everything from him. Not only that, but they also overworked their employees, with Arnold here just finishing off a 36-hour shift. And also the bodies of their employees we find throughout the manor stuffed in the mascot costumes. We already knew Fazbear Entertainment was a shady and bad company, and this just adds to that. I love the little details of the story shown throughout the audio logs and text logs, such as Edwin's company falling apart, Chica's Party World, and the Fazbear takeover. We get plenty of explanation on the Mimic, who he is, what he does, and his backstory, which I know a lot of people were confused and had no clue who he was when he was revealed in Ruin, so hopefully this helps. The 3 endings felt satisfying, unlike the 6 endings from Security Breach, which I'm glad they went for less endings that were good and felt satisfying rather than 6 unsatisfying endings. I got the clock out ending on my first playthrough, which reveals the dispatch was being mimicked the whole time, the Mimic being in the back of the truck and a makeshift version of the FNaF 1 map along with the animatronics, which I was shocked to see. This also proves that the Mimic was glitch trapped, since this is a literal recreation of Help Wanted's Pizza Party ending, except the Mimic isn't dancing like Glitch Trap. The Parachute.exe ending seems to be the true ending here and has some insane lore reveals with the Springlock suits, the Mex's machine being found underground, and that the Mex's machine is Fiona, and that the Mimic was made to mimic Fiona after she died, which is probably the Mimic's secret. This is probably my favorite ending in the whole game. And finally we have the secret ending, where we repair the Mimic and we can see him shapeshift from being the little Mimic mimicking David to the evil Mimic right in front of us, which is so cool to see. All of these endings had something good to show, and were just in general really good endings to the game. I really like how this game disproves the books are canon to the games, since it makes the games more accessible to newcomers and also just makes the story less confusing. Even though I do like some of the books, like Tales from the Pizzaplex, I just prefer the story being told in the games rather than outside sources. There's a lot of changes from the books in this game, such as Fiona not dying in childbirth, allowing us to see more of her character, Murray's Costume Manor being a much bigger building, whereas in the book, it was an old factory with a parking garage attached to it. Edmund's death, if he actually dies here, is much better with him getting killed by the Mimic instead of suffocating inside of the storyteller's tree in the Pizzaplex. Overall, this game is just a much bigger improvement to the Murray story, and I'm glad there were some changes made. The gameplay in Secret of the Mimic is some of the best I've seen in a FNaF game. It's super fun, and as I'm writing this script, I'm on my 6th playthrough of the game, and I haven't got bored yet. Exploring the costume manor is fun with all the backtracking you can do after upgrading your data diver. All the rooms in the building are interconnected, which makes it feel like a real place. The exploration here kind of reminds you of the Baker Estate from Resident Evil 7, where each enemy has their own segment, and afterwards we head back to the main hub area, which I'm a big fan of. The data diver kind of works like the passes from Security Breach, but I feel like it's majorly improved upon here, and it's much more rewarding to get a new permission than a new security badge. I like how we have an inventory system similar to the item box from Resident Evil games, although it can get kind of annoying if you die after collecting a bunch of items or a bunch of mail, since it doesn't save. My biggest issue with this is in the admin offices, where there's a bunch of mail, and if you die to Chica, you lose all of it. Saving is probably my biggest issue in this game. There is only one save slot for your entire playthrough, so if you want to go back to a previous point in the game, you're going to need to replay the whole game up to that point. I don't know why they didn't just include save points anywhere in this game aside from the autosaves. If they wanted to make the game more difficult by having less saves, create a save system where you can only save a limited number of times, such as with ink ribbons like in Resident Evil games. The lack of UI keeps the player immersed in the game and makes them feel like they're in Arnold's shoes. Just like I said earlier, the game is fun to play. I like the puzzle solving, although I wish the puzzles were a little more difficult. The stealth is satisfying to use since outrunning the Mimic isn't really an option. Some notable gameplay sequences are in the basement with the White Tiger, the doll hospital, the workshop where we build the Captain Springlock suit, and the research and development area underneath the manor. I enjoyed Secret of the Mimic a lot. It's definitely up there as one of the best FNaF games of all time and might even be my favorite. The designs and personalities of the game's characters, from Dolly and Jackie to Edwin and Fiona, were amazing. Some of the best designs I've seen, which I can see some of them being cute but also very scary when they need to be. Murray's Costume Manor was an incredible building to explore and was full of personality. The story was great with a lot of lore dumps for previous events in the series. It genuinely scared me at some points, mainly with the White Tiger and the Sleepy Moon. I think any section with the Star Orphans is just automatically terrifying. I had a lot of fun with the game. It's very replayable, although I wish the New Game Plus had a little more to it, aside from being just for one collectible. Maybe we could have had all the permissions from the very start of the game, but that probably would have broken it. Like, imagine having the executive permission, like, right when we meet the Mimic. So my final rating for Secret of the Mimic is going to be a 9 out of 10. This is generally one of my favorite games of all time for the reasons I said previously. Obviously, no game is perfect. It does have its issues with some bugs here and there, but I still love the game and I can appreciate the effort that was put into it by Steelwood and Scott. That's going to be it for this video, guys. Comment down below what you think of Secret of the Mimic, and remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Thanks for watching.